quiet kitchen rests in shadow, hiding secrets that time carefully buried. A forgotten tale. Next to it sits a glass rimmed with salt. A simple drink, holding an ancient, bloody history. We drift closer, piercing the glass barrier, diving into the liquid, an infinite journey backward. The light fades into a harsh, blinding sun, baking the cracked earth beneath a ruthless sky. This is a desolate land, where only the most resilient spirits survive. A barren wasteland. Among the rocks grows a peculiar crown of thorns, a rosette of sharp blue-green spears. It stands defiant against the drought, guarding a sweet treasure hidden deep within its heavy heart. Before it became a global commodity, this plant was divine. It was born from a tragic myth. They called her Mayahuel, a pure deity who fell from grace, a tragic sacrifice. Forbidden love drew her to the mortal realm, but the jealous stars above would not allow it. In a celestial rage, her grandmother sent demons to hunt her down, tearing her body apart. Her shattered remains fell to the dry earth, sinking deep into the cold and unforgiving dust. From those sacred fragments buried in dirt, the very first agave plant began to slowly rise. The plant was a gift of mourning, an eternal monument to a goddess torn apart forever. And the sweet sap bleeding from its core was said to be her tears of sorrow. The scorched earth slowly embraced her, hiding the broken pieces of a fallen deity. A silent tomb. Beneath the cracked clay, life stirred. Pale white roots stretched like desperate, seeking fingers, searching for lost warmth. A miracle emerged from the dust, rising with fierce green swords to pierce the sky. A quiet rebellion. The skin of this new life was tough, shielded by layers of thick, waxy armor, surviving the relentless heat. Ancient wanderers noticed this strange guardian, a solitary survivor thriving where no other plant could, a divine anomaly. They approached with deep reverence. The needle-like tips warned them of a dangerous sacred boundary, demanding ultimate respect. To reach the heart of the goddess, they had to bypass her defensive thorny armor, shedding human blood. Stripped of her green spears, the pale, fleshy core was finally revealed to the world. A hidden heart. They hollowed out the heavy center, creating a shallow basin within the living, breathing plant, waiting for a miracle. Slowly, a clear liquid began to pool. It seeped from the wounded fibers like liquid glass, sweet and pure. They called it aguamel, honey water, the sweet nectar weeping from a tragically broken heart. The ultimate sacrifice. A single drop touched their tongues, revealing a sweetness that contrasted with the harsh desert, a taste of heaven. The people dropped to their knees, realizing that Mayahuel still nurtured them from beyond the grave. A motherly love. Her endless tears provided hydration, sustenance, and a subtle energy to those who drank deeply, quenching their eternal thirst. But the hot sun held another secret. It would soon transform these innocent tears into something intoxicating, a powerful magic. The ruthless sun dominates the sky, burning everything, yet this resilient warrior survives, an immortal spirit. Its thick skin reflects the heat, trapping precious moisture deep within its flesh, a hidden sanctuary. Months turn into unforgiving dry years, while the patient agave slowly gathers strength. A silent vigil. A single drop of sweet nectar courses slowly through the tough inner veins, a vital pulse. Nocturnal bats emerge from the shadows, seeking the blooming flowers of the desert, a nocturnal dance. A towering stalk erupts toward heaven, carrying the final breath of the plant. A glorious end. The ancient tribes understood this cycle, watching the agave bloom before it dies, a tragic beauty. They cut the towering floral stalk, redirecting all the vital energy downward again, a forceful shift. The swollen heart of the agave bulges heavily under the harsh, blistering sun, a sacred vessel. Inside this massive, swollen plant core, starches transform into complex and sweet sugars, a natural alchemy. The gatherers return to the fields, carving the massive heart with stone tools. A patient harvest. The liquid pools inside the basin, resting quietly as microscopic wild yeast arrives, an invisible spark. The hot winds carry this yeast, bringing life to the still sweet water, a magical breath. Gentle bubbles rise to the surface, transforming nectar into a cloudy, intoxicating brew. A dangerous shift. This naturally fermented white, milky fluid will soon touch the lips of emperors, a divine prelude. The mighty Aztec Empire rises in golden glory, claiming this elixir as a divine right, a sacred privilege. Only the high priests and elders drank it, pouring the holy liquid into dark stone, a royal feast. The grand stone pyramids touch the sky, where brutal rituals demanded a heavy toll, an endless thirst. A sharp blade carved from volcanic glass rests waiting for the final bloody act, a dark tool. Trembling captives were marched to the high summit, facing their doom under the blazing sun, a grim destiny. But before the brutal fatal strike occurred, the priests offered them a final comfort, a sweet illusion. The victims drank the milky, fermented agave, letting the alcohol cloud their terrified minds, a gentle fog. The sacred pulque numbed their mortal fear, washing away the agonizing terror of death, a fleeting peace. A heavy, intoxicating trance quickly took over, sedating their bodies before the divine sacrifice, a silent surrender. The high priest chanted an ancient song, wearing magnificent feathers dancing in the wind, a hypnotic rhythm. He pushed the victim onto the stone, raising the sharp, black obsidian blade high, a fatal motion. The cold stone altar held their forms, waiting patiently for the release of life, a bloody canvas. With a single swift and brutal strike, the beating heart ripped from the chest. A terrible gift. Crimson blood spilled down the steep steps, mixing with the holy spilled milky pulque, a tragic blend. The mighty sun god drank the blood, while the plant silently watched the slaughter, a silent witness. The golden age of the Aztec Empire shatters abruptly, as strange, massive wooden ships arrive, a dark storm. Bearded men clad in shining steel armor walk upon the sacred ancient Holy Land, a heavy tread. They bring fire and a new brutal god, wiping out the grand native civilization entirely. A tragic fall. The obsidian altars shatter under heavy iron boots, crumbling into a fine gray forgotten dust, an erased past. Temples burn fiercely against the black, smoke-filled sky, marking the end of the mighty empire, a devastating end. Yet the resilient agave remains standing completely still, watching the brutal chaos unfold around it, a silent observer. The European invaders exhaust their precious imported brandy, desperate for a familiar, strong, intoxicating spirit, a deep thirst. They discover the native milky fermented pulque drink, finding it completely strange and oddly unpalatable, a sour taste. But their minds hold a powerful Arabic secret, the mysterious, magical, ancient art of distillation, a transformative fire. They construct crude copper stills in the hot desert, preparing to boil the sacred, sweet nectar, a bold experiment. The hollowed cooked agave hearts are crushed violently, releasing their sticky, sweet, dark brown juices, a forceful extraction. Heavy stone wheels pulled by tired beasts of burden crush the fibrous plant into a pulp, a slow grind. The sweet crushed mash ferments in large wooden vats, preparing for the brutal trial of fire, a bubbling brew. Rich, thick smoke rises from the deep roasting pits, infusing the flesh with a dark soul, a primal scent. The stage is set for a massive cultural shift, birthing a spirit forged in intense heat, a new era. The primitive copper still boils fiercely, transforming the ancient sweet agave mash beautifully. A rising vapor, a single clear drop slowly condenses, falling from the hot, heavy copper pipe, a potent liquid. The strong scent of roasted earth fills the hot, dry Spanish colonial air, a sharp aroma. Rough hands collect the precious spirit, pouring the transparent liquid into clay vessels, a careful task. This crude, fiery liquid is soon born, uniting two vastly different clashing historical worlds, a powerful hybrid. The first sip burns the human throat, leaving a deep, smoky, lingering, earthy aftertaste. A wild warmth. They name this strong, rustic native drink, calling it mezcal from the ancient tongue. A new legacy. The remaining agave fibers crackle in flames, feeding the eternal, roaring fire beneath stills. A restless energy. Spanish colonial lords claim this harsh desert, building massive stone haciendas across the plains. A ruthless empire. Heavy iron keys lock the dark cellars, keeping the golden resting liquid completely safe. A hidden vault. Wooden barrels slowly age the wild spirit, softening the harsh, rustic edges with time. A gentle change. The smooth oak imparts rich golden hues, turning the clear water into glowing amber. A slow magic. Large distilleries multiply across the arid valley, replacing the wild, ancient fields with rows. A strict order. A very sharp blade cuts the leaves, harvesting the swollen blue hearts for production. An endless cycle. The ancient sacred myth is finally forgotten, buried beneath the heavy weight of commerce. A lost god. The modern world thirsts for the golden liquid, building a massive, booming, billion-dollar industry. A relentless demand. Beautiful crystal bottles line the high, shiny shelves, hiding the deep, dark, painful historical truths. A polished illusion. Vast rolling hills turn a striking uniform blue, erasing the ancient, diverse, natural wild landscape. A beautiful desert. Millions of genetically identical blue agave plants grow, standing in perfectly straight, endless, artificial rows. A cloned army. The ancient, wild, resilient species slowly fade away, losing their deep roots in the earth. A quiet death. Farmers must rely on harsh, strong chemical sprays, fighting the heavy burden of modern monoculture, a toxic shield. Under the scorching hot, relentless Mexican midday sun, the skilled, proud jimadores swing their blades. A grueling dance. A heavy steel blade strikes the tough core, cutting the thick, fleshy, sharp green leaves. A brutal harvest. Sweat drips heavily from their tired, worn brows, watering the dry, dusty, thirsty desert soil. A human cost. Rough, calloused hands lift the heavy, dripping hearts, loading the bleeding, massive, heavy plant cores. A heavy lift. Massive, roaring, metallic trucks haul the precious cargo, leaving the bare, stripped, dusty fields behind. A hollow victory. Huge, giant, steel, modern steam ovens cook them, replacing the ancient, deep, slow earthen pits. A fast burn. The sweet, sticky, dark-roasted syrup flows out, running through cold, heavy, shining steel pipes. An industrial vein. Giant metallic vats ferment the precious sugary liquid, churning the bubbling, angry, cloudy, active brew. A loud process. The high-speed, modern, massive, heavy factory lines pump the strong, clear liquid into bottles. A global flood. The gleaming crystal bottles travel across oceans, arriving in bright, noisy, modern, crowded cities. A global phenomenon. The clear, golden liquid fills a glass, resting quietly upon a polished wooden table. A waiting drink. Bright white salt lines the delicate rim, recalling the tragic, weeping, ancient, fallen goddess. A bitter memory. A sharp wedge of sour green lime cuts through the heavy, sweet, lingering warmth. A perfect balance. A stranger takes a long, slow sip, ignorant of the deep, brutal, bloody history. A blind indulgence. But the vast, silent, scorching Mexican desert remembers every single drop of spilled blood. An eternal witness. It remembers the deeply calloused, tired hands, swinging the heavy, sharp, traditional steel blade. A hard life. It remembers the lost, ancient, proud tribes who worship the great, bleeding, resilient plant. A forgotten faith. It remembers the dark, heavy, rolling smoke, rising from the ancient colonial copper stills. A fiery birth. The cracked, dry earth holds these ghosts, trapped beneath the endless, cloned blue rose. A silent graveyard. Every bottle holds a beautiful, complex soul, born from immense suffering and divine tears. A heavy price. The spirit of the tragic, fallen goddess still breathes within the fiery, golden liquid. A lingering presence. The vibrant, noisy, modern world keeps drinking, never hearing the quiet, ancient desert weeping. A deafening silence. The glass empties, leaving only scattered salt, as the dark history slowly fades away. A final taste. The silent kitchen holds the ancient secret, resting hidden inside the glowing empty glass. A finished tale.